hopefully this works.
Yeah, hopefully.
At least hopefully one of the two. And maybe if they can't, if I'm not on there, they'll hear us.
Yeah,
So,
that's all that matters.
okay.
What are the various jobs available in this field?
Well, there are a lot of jobs available in this field. With what I do, you could be a wholesaler, you could be an internal wholesaler, you could be a manager for the internal wholesalers, you could be a divisional manager, which would be my boss. You could be the CEO, a portfolio manager, an analyst. Outside of what I do in this business, you could be an advisor, and there's a lot. There's a lot of positions that you could branch out to or do in this business.
Okay.
Compliance, I mean, lots of stuff.
So in what ways in particular is the economy affecting finance?
Well, I think to be very simplistic, the economy really does run what it decides. The economy decides typically, depending on where you're at, whether or not you're going to have a good year or a bad year.
Mm-hmm.
If the economy is not growing, and you're doing business with equity funds, you're probably not going to have a great year, just because stocks aren't going to be up.
Exactly.
Typically.
Yeah.
So it does. It has a big influence on this particular, I guess, sector of the economy.
Okay. Is this industry heavily regulated?
It is. It's overly regulated.
Okay.
With everything that happened, I would tell you, I think that that regulation is good, but with everything that happened, I think they went a little bit too far.
Too far.
Now it seems like it's forcing, or it's causing regulators to decide what's good for the client instead of the advisor,
Okay.
who has the relationship.
Okay. So what is a typical entry-level salary for somebody in this field?
To get into this field, you probably start off as an internal wholesaler. It's going to be somewhere, I believe, in the $30,000, $35,000 range.
Okay.
So, I mean, college entry.
Mm-hmm. So in what ways is your job changing?
Is it changing?
With new technologies or?
Oh, well, with new technology, it's becoming easier and easier to make trades.
Okay.
In my business, I don't necessarily know that there's a lot of changes from the standpoint of technology. Instead of carrying paperwork or a lot of presentations around, I carry an iPad now.
Okay.
However, my internal wholesaler, who used to just do phone calls, can do video conferencing, can do a lot of stuff with technology. So I'm sure there's some things that I'm not thinking of that have made my business a little easier with technology.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, computer.
Exactly.
But the iPad has really helped my business a lot.
Okay. How quickly is the field growing?
Is it growing?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, is it like, obviously it's not an up and coming industry. It's been around for quite a long time, but is it still growing in size? Or?
From the standpoint of advisors, it's starting to grow again because of what happened in 2008, and then just recently. New advisors, it's very difficult because it is a difficult period of time to get in and start to build trust with individuals. So from an advisor standpoint, that's now picking back up. It had dropped off a lot. As far as changes, there's always something new that's coming out. New products. You don't see as many new companies coming out, but I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
There's typically a lot of consolidation, but it's growing. It's always growing and changing.
Okay. So is there a ceiling on the salaries that people in your industry, your field, that they make?
From a salary standpoint, I would tell you an internal wholesaler is probably going to be capped out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much more than, say, 40,000 as far as salary. Not as far as bonus, but as far as salary, that's probably the max. But your average span of being an internal wholesaler is probably 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, you're either wanting to get out of the field or you decide I don't want to be in this business.
Mm-hmm.
From the sales side, the reason you get into sales is you don't want to be capped out.
Okay.
So it just depends on what you're doing inside the business of whether or not you're going to capped out as far as income.
So is that why do you think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people leave the career? Is because they could just cap out at the salary and it's not. They either realize it's not what they want to do.
I think that's typically more. You know what? This just isn't my bag. I don't want to. I don't want to. If I'm an internal wholesaler and I'm married and maybe starting to build a family and I don't want to move because my internal wholesaler lives in Chicago. All of his family's in Chicago. He doesn't want to move away from Chicago. So he's either going to get a wholesaling position that's in Chicago, which could be tough,
Okay.
or he's going to probably find something else.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of the position, or you realize, you know what, I don't like it.
So you said it would be tough in Chicago. So are there like specific regions around the United States that are better for your job than not?
I would tell you Texas is usually pretty good. California is usually pretty good. Florida, New York, Chicago. They usually have pretty good territories. I would also tell you it really depends on where the company's located. So if I had a fund company that was based in Ohio's going to be a great territory.
Mm-hmm.
Just simply because I'm there, I've got roots there, everybody knows the company, and if I have a good reputation, a lot of people are going to want to do business. That's just, there's
Okay.
companies here in Texas that I know their Texas territory is the best territory. So I think it just depends on where it's at. Chicago has a lot of fun companies there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunity, but it's also very competitive, so it just depends. You may be the right place or know the right person or what have you.
So what's unique about your field that isn't necessarily comes into play in other fields?
Wow. That doesn't come into play. I would tell you to be a chameleon or not. I hate saying that word because it makes it sound like I'm telling you not to be yourself. I just mean you need to forget about views that would be polarizing.
Okay.
When you're selling. I don't necessarily know that that's unique in sales. In our business, you know what? What I think is unique in this business is in my position, I have no control over the final sale.
Okay.
So I can lead an advisor to understanding why this is a good solution for their client, how it will benefit them, this, that. I can tell them everything that's going to be good, but I can't make them go and present it to their client.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little frustrating sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, and I think that is a little bit unique because a lot of times when you're in sales, you're actually talking.
Yeah,
to
you're
the
making
end user.
the final sale.
Yeah.
So what is the most important thing that someone planning to enter this career should know?
I would tell you, be willing to step out of your boundaries. Be willing to always try to be learning something about the industry. I would tell you that if you are an introvert, make sure that you leave that at home and are willing and able to go and talk to someone and try to build some rapport. To the point of if you're in a room and you don't know anyone, you got to be willing to go up and break the ice and introduce yourself to people, and not just sit there and say, I don't want to be here, I'm gonna leave. I think that's probably the most important thing, because bottom line in this business is relationships, and if you're not able to build relationships, I don't believe you'd be successful.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Now let's hope I got it all.